That's right. We're drinking coffee because it's starting early today. Can't tell you what's in the coffee cup, though, because it's a secret. Shh. Can't tell you about it. But welcome back to another episode of Sippin With Sin, the podcast where we talk about stuff and things and stuff, pertaining to lots of cool stuff. That's it. That's your explanation. That's your rundown for the episode. That's how it goes. Welcome back. This is totally not our second time recording this. Yeah, totally not. Because wouldn't be me having audio issues screwing up the first time we recorded. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be us. But we're back with another episode. We have quite a bit to talk about. And I'm super excited to talk about it because it's something I've been waiting on. And yeah. So, without further ado, let's bring in our one and only, our esteemed co-host, Mr. Christian.
What's up, everyone?
Why in the hell
back for another episode.
His camera, we will never know. This boy's over here like a damn magician trying to be announced or some shit.
Now you see me.
I like the Hellfire Club shirt, by the way. Now that we can see.
Thank you. It's actually a baseball tee, which is awesome.
I like baseball tees.
Yeah, man. I actually ordered. So here's the thing: when Stranger Things this season came out, I ordered this baseball tee when the show first came out, within the first week of the show coming out, and I just received this shirt a couple months ago. Show's been out for.
No, wait. When did Stranger Things come out?
Was it June or July? One of them. It came out this past summer. Right? Yeah.
I thought so.
So it came out the summer, and I didn't get it until the beginning of this winter. So
that's some bull. The hell
yeah.
Did you order it from?
Some third party website that made the shirt before, because they didn't have baseball tees available when the show dropped, especially in the signature black and gray that I rep, because I like to wear black and grays. They only had the solid white, or so for the show, and I didn't want a solid white shirt because they don't last for me. They don't last long. I get them dirty, or I spill juice on it, or whatever.
I don't do well with white t-shirts.
Yeah, same.
All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about today, and we're going to get into it because I'm excited. And like I said, totally not our second time recording this. Yeah. It's Inception. No, it's not Inception. What am I trying to say? What is it? It's a figment of your imagination. This episode was not already recorded. It's going to be better this time. If that was to be the case. If it was indeed actually recorded and not recorded, though, well, if it was recorded, but there was jacked up, then it's going to be better second time.
Stuff and things, as you say.
All right. So what we like to do to start every episode is talk about what we've been watching, listening to, reading, or playing this past week. So let's do a quick recap. I don't have a lot, and I'll explain why. But mine, me and the missus have been binge watching Better Call Saul, and we have finished season 5. And I want you to know, if you ever want to just get kicked in the nuts one good time, one good kicked right in the giblets, think a show is over. Especially a prequel show that leads into a show you've already watched, it's a really good show. Think the show is over and you're about to start the other show, only for you to find out there's another season that you can't even find. Because that's a bitch. Because the last episode happened, I was like, ooh, here we go. It's going to wrap up and we're going to get into Breaking Bad. And then it left on a cliffhanger and it was kick right in the giblets. And I was like, I'll be damned. And then I was like, well, all right, Netflix, we're season 6. And they were like, haha, flip me off. We don't have them shits. And I was like, oh, what?
We don't have them shits.
Yeah, that's pretty much what Netflix did. Exactly like so those that don't know, Better Call Saul, a quick recap. It is, if you watch Breaking Bad, it's their attorney, Saul Goodman, who is played by Bob Odenkirk, who I actually really like. He did a movie recently called Nobody. Christian, did you ever see that?
I actually never saw Nobody. I know
Nobody was pretty damn good. I liked it. It's he's like a John Wick, but when you see him, you wouldn't think you'd be a John Wick. You see Keanu Reeves and you're like, Keanu Reeves fucked somebody up. You just get that feeling from Keanu Reeves.
Well, now you do. You didn't at first.
I mean, you don't. Yes, I did. He was Neo. You don't fuck with Neo?
Yeah, but it's a completely different feeling. Neo was more fantasy. You know what I'm saying? You could, when you put stuff in like a fantasy element like that, anybody could be Neo. Typically, let me go back.
Oh, we don't
and
got
stuff
Christian,
like the Matrix.
We done got him rolling up.
You did this. You did this. So typically in that kind of realm of things like that neon fantasy kind of realm, it's usually the tall, slender, kind of clean cut white dude that is
so
the
worked
Neo.
Up his
right?
camera keeps freezing.
I guess it seems fine to me, but whatever. But to keep going, you kind of know who's going to be the Neo character in films and stuff like that. But then when you get to something like John Wick, he's like grizzled. He's got a bushy beard, long hair. His hair always looks, his looks kind of greasy. You know what I'm saying? But he's got a fresh ass suit on, right? Looks like he used to.
Quit hating.
I'm not hating on him. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is John Wick changed how we view main badass characters, right? Because they used to always kind of be the same. Like I said, hardly any facial hair. The hair was a certain length. You know what I'm saying? Kind of clean cut almost, and they looked a certain way. They usually didn't have the super business look with the grizzled face and all that. That's usually not how they were depicted. Then John Wick came out and kind of changed that up. So now that's always the character that we see that's going to be the badass. And I mean, we'll get another thing like that eventually. Like eventually we'll get something that changes up the game again, and the John Wick-esque looking character will be, I don't know, instead of it being like an old dude that wears suits and has like beards and crazy hair and coiffs and all that shit, it'll be like fucking old women for all we know. Like it could literally be
dope. I wish he was in John Wick. Hold on, I'm trying to think of his damn name. You're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. I love his voice. Like, I think when he talks, his voice just has babies. Jeffrey Wright.
Wait. That's the dude from
Commissioner Gordon in the Batman.
Yeah. He's Gordon. He's a lot of. He's in
Westworld. I don't know. There's something about him. I love how he carries himself and his voice. Which is we're going way off topic already.
Yeah, let's get back on. Let's jump back in.
Okay, so Better Call Saul. One thing I'll say about it, essentially it's a prequel going into Breaking Bad. You see kind of behind the scenes of what Saul, like, I guess how he becomes the Saul Goodman we know in Breaking Bad. It's a pretty solid show. I will say, though, for me, it's a lot of lawyer stuff and a lot of things that, like, there's episodes that pick up, obviously, like any series, but there's a lot of episodes where I'm just like, like, I'm not super into it, but it's a solid show. You know, definitely it keeps everything within the not Better Call Saul, within the Breaking Bad universe, and they bring a lot of characters from Breaking Bad, such as Mike and Gus, who is one of my favorite villains. I love Giancarlo Esposito. What is Esposito? What's his damn name?
Esposito.
There we go. He's a fantastic villain. Love him. But they bring a lot of them back in, so it's cool to see them. That's pretty fun. Season 6, I got a big FU from Netflix because apparently they don't have it on there. Why? I don't know, because it came out like last summer or something. So I've been watching that. We've been binging. And then I've checked out a couple songs and bands. One of them, Termina, which is the YouTuber Nick Nocturnal, YouTuber Twitch streamer. Him and Andy Sizik, who is the vocalist for Monuments and some other bands. It's their project. They released a new song featuring Phil Bozeman of Whitechapel and Joshua Travis of Amur. And let me tell you, when JT and Phil Bozeman's part come together, I wanted to flip this whole house because that shit got heavy. And I was like, oh, yes. Like, I think, yeah. I think
I need to listen to that. I'll probably listen to it today after we record.
It's a good song all the way through. But whenever they pick up, you can tell it's Joshua Travis because, like, just his style and I guess, yeah. And, of course, Phil, the lows and gutturals, when he starts, you're just, you know Phil. Like, if you've ever listened to metal, you know Phil Bozeman from Whitechapel. Like, dude's vocals are brutal as hell. But I listened to that. And then I've also kind of went down a rabbit hole with a band that I had heard of and I can kind of heard in passing. But I'll tell you, the band confuses me. It's literally like a radio band. You would hear like a rock band, but then they have these like heavier than Deftones riffs that I'm like, damn. Like I'm talking like some heavy
Really?
Saul riffs just out of nowhere. I'm like, what the like this doesn't make sense to me. And they're good, and it's called Sleep Token. And a lot of their songs are actually really freaking good. So I've been checking out some of their music, and I've also noticed I don't think anybody knows who the hell they are, which is pretty cool. Like it's there was shit, what is that band? Not Daft Punk. Is it Daft Punk? It's kind of like the Marshmallow thing where like people don't know their real identity, like who the hell it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they're wearing like, I think they're wearing masks and shit on stage because I'm seeing like a lot of the metal and music community, people now are just saying, I'm such and such, I'm the guitarist. And nobody knows who it is actually. Like no one has any clue who's singing and who's playing guitar and stuff. So it's kind of cool. I think they're a UK based band. I could be very wrong. Like I said, I'm just now kind of checking them out more. I'd heard of them. They're pretty dope though. It's very interesting and different. It's hard to explain. So, I mean, I wouldn't even I don't know if they're classified as metal, maybe like rock metal. So that kind of that bridge. I don't know. But their riffs, Christian, you would like it. It's some heavy shit when it hits. You're like, God dang. Like groove. It's wild. But I've been checking out them. Why I haven't got to do much this week is because I've been extremely lucky thus far. And Baby Sin has not been sick. But that all changed this week. And let me tell you, that boy, out of nowhere, got like a stomach virus or something, and he threw up like a grown-ass man. Like projectile exorcist vomited all over my wife, all in the house everywhere.
You say all over my life or all over my wife?
Life and wife. Just ruined everything. And that shit come out of nowhere. It made no damn sense. The boy is fine all day, and he's like, whatever, fine. He comes up from a nap. We go outside. We walk around, let him like get some fresh air, and he like walked around the yard, stretching his legs. Fine, everything's cool. Then he just starts crying, and we're like, "What the hell happened?" Boy's eating his Cheerios. He starts crying. He's screaming, and we're just like, "I don't understand what's going on with him. Like, what is wrong?" And then he stopped eating his Cheerios, and we're like, "That's really weird," because he's like a snack goblin. This dude is gonna throw down on some damn snacks. He stops eating them, and he's screaming. So she picks him up, and she's like calming him down. I was like, feels a little hot. And she's like, yeah. And just out of nowhere, it's like, blah. And I'm like, oh, shit. Just started throwing up freaking chunks of avocado, and it was awful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was terrible. So he was sick. That was a fun thing. So that kind of put a damper on my week. But enough about me. Parenthood. It's awesome. Smile. Those on YouTube. Yeah. And listening. Gotta love it. Christian, what have you been into this last week?
For me, this past week, I've been doing a lot of things aside from just real life stuff and working. I've been reading a lot. I read the Mass Effect novel called Revelation by Drew Karpyshyn. That's the guy who is the lead writer for the Mass Effect games. So as you could just tell by thinking about that the books are also very in-depth, but not boring. I read that book in like 4 days. I kind of just blew right through it. It was only like 300 something pages, so it was super quick. It was really easy to get into it, especially me being a Mass Effect fan. I like the characters. The first book in the series I'm reading, Revelation, it's like a prequel. It's a prequel to the first Mass Effect, right? So it takes place before, Shepard's journey. And it's about a young Captain Anderson and his story with Saren. It's that backstory that you hear in the game where he talks to Shepard about how he was eyed to be the first human Spectre, and then he blew the mission and all that. And it's that story. And one of the characters in the book, aside from Captain Anderson and Sarah, her name is Kali. She's one of the main characters in that book, and she actually carries over to the second book, which takes place after Mass Effect 1, but before Mass Effect 2, the game. So it's like in the middle. And I'll let you guys know how that second book is here. I just started it. It's called Ascension, and we'll see what it's like. I'm only like 10 chapters in right now. And right now I enjoy it, but it's essentially about Kali, the woman from the first book I was telling you about, and her story that for her new job that she works. And I don't really want to get into it too much because I don't want to tell you anything wrong, but it has a lot more to do with biotics than it does soldiers and whatnot. So if you played a Sentinel, a Vanguard, any character with biotic abilities, the second novel in the series will mean more to you just in general because you'll know more about how the powers and stuff works. And obviously there's not a lot of human biotics at this time. So if you are a human that has biotic abilities, you're like a prodigy. So we're looking into that. So aside from reading that, let's see, what else have I been doing? I watched Rocky, the original Rocky from '76. That was definitely a fun watch. I've seen it plenty of times, but it's been a few years since I watched it, and I've noticed that it was on Netflix, so I threw it on and watched it. And the first one I still really like it, but god damn, it is awkward, man. Like there's a lot of things in that film that
him pursuing Adrian is awkward as shit at times.
It is very weird, very uncomfortable. The only thing that makes it better is the fact that I know that they are a thing later on and they stay a thing. But yeah, just the dialogue in this movie, like they use some words that we obviously don't use now anymore, and it's like you're definitely watching a time capsule movie for sure when you cut Rocky on, but it's still enjoyable to watch. I really liked his backstory with Mick, his trainer, and man, I forgot how much of a piece of shit Mick was to Rocky, dude. I totally forgot about that. But anyway, I watched that and it was really fun. I did watch season 2 of Peaky Blinders. That's done now. If you haven't watched Peaky Blinders, what are you doing?
I mean, I have, so that's on my list.
It needs to be number 2 on your list. I know what you're watching right now, and this needs to be it. It needs to be number 2. Like,
is it that good? Though? I know. I see a lot of people praise it. Is it actually that good?
I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna answer that question as quickly as I can right now. Yes. It's okay. Yeah. Here's the thing. I am equal parts really annoyed at myself for not watching this show earlier, but I'm also really happy because the way that the seasons end off, you're like, God damn it, I gotta wait, but I don't because the show's done, so I can just watch through. So I'm telling you, here's the thing. When you watch it, we're gonna talk about it on the podcast. Okay. Like that's how good it is. Okay. So definitely.
Ooh, speaking of shows we need to talk about on the podcast, have you watched the Resident Evil series, the most recent one?
I gave up after the first episode.
Okay, I haven't watched it, and I know, it's unfair for me to call it boo-boo shoes if I haven't watched it, but I have a very strong feeling it's boo-boo shoes. Mm-hmm. So I watched, maybe I saw 5 minutes of it, and I was like, what the hell is this? And then I stopped. But I kind of want to watch it just to be fair, and because I'm a Resident Evil fan, but I also know that I'm probably going to hate it. It's probably just going to make me mad. Kind of like... Yeah. Like the movies do.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather sit down and watch a marathon of all of the movies than to watch the rest of this season, if that tells you anything.
Well, I know it got canceled. I'm pretty sure.
Thank God. It shouldn't have been created. It was a terrible idea to begin with. The execution was fucking god-awful. The show was boo-boo shoes. It doesn't make any sense when you've played all the games. It's kind of like, I don't know. I actually don't even know what to compare this to be honest, because it's like, here's the thing. It's not that I'm mad at the show for changing shit up, right? That's not why I'm mad. I'm not mad that the characters are different races, different genders. I don't care about any of that. The show's just not good. It's not enjoyable to watch. It's like Netflix was like, hey, you know what's popular right now? Post-apocalyptic stuff and zombies and making people different races because we want to be inclusive. Let's just do all of that. But instead of making something new or adapting something well, let's just take something that people love, like Resident Evil, for an example, and let's shit all over it. Let's do that. Who cares, right? We'll make some money and we can cancel if it doesn't do well. That's exactly what happened with the show. First episode, that's what happened. Like, are parts of the show that are interesting. Don't get me wrong. Like, there are definitely parts that are interesting from the first episode, but the parts that are interesting are heavily outweighed by how bad everything else is. So I was not interested to finish it.
Okay. So Peaky Blinders is a must.
Peaky Blinders is absolutely a must. I wish that I could just absorb all of Peaky Blinders into my brain so I don't have to take time out of my day to keep watching it, right? Because I want to see it, but I also have so much other stuff to do because of life. But like, I have to make time to watch Peaky Blinders, at least an episode a day, because it's that good for me. Like, it's just one of those shows that ticks all the right boxes for you, and it's definitely worth your time. Is it better than some of the other stuff that we're going to talk about? I don't know yet, but I really like it a lot.
Is it kind of like Sopranos?
I didn't watch all of Sopranos, so I don't want to tell you wrong.
I loved Sopranos.
I was not able to watch Sopranos when it was out, and then the reason why
I think while the missus was pregnant, so last like year and a half, 2 years or so.
Yeah, the reason why I didn't like really just start getting into The Sopranos is because people had told me so much about it before I watched it. I just didn't feel the need to watch it. But it's one of those shows that I'll definitely watch at some point. It's kind of like The Wire in that aspect. You know what I mean? It's like one of those shows you just got to experience. So I'll definitely do that. I just haven't given it the time of day because I'm doing so many other things. I will tell you,
it started. So like when we started, like the first episode or two, she was kind of like, I don't know. And then we got kind of like Breaking Bad. You got past that, and then shit started rolling. Then you're just kind of you're hooked and you're going. So,
yeah.
I mean
aside from that though, I played Mass Effect 1 and beat that finally. I saved the Alliance. I played a Paragon through and through, female Shepherd, and I am now into the second game, acquiring my crew. I think the last thing I did was I recruited Tally. I recruited Tally because I did Jack first. I got Jack on my team, and now I have Tally. And because the version of the game that I have has all the DLC in it, some of the missions come up in a different order. Like, I can already do loyalty missions for 3 people on my crew, and I don't even have everybody. So it's really weird. I will say, my first playthrough of the game, my favorite character absolutely was Jack, and I still really, really love Jack. But because I'm playing a female shepherd, Jack talks to you differently than she would talk to you if you're a male shepherd, because you can't start a romance with her. But I just really take all the time that I can to appreciate Grunt, because Grunt is awesome, and I really like him. So, he looks the coolest. Like, his design, that Krogan design, is awesome with the orange skin and stuff. So, like, I really like him. And I think the next mission I'm going to do is recruit Thane, I believe. So we'll see what happens. But I've just been going through, man. I love Mass Effect 2. It was my favorite game of all time until literally this year, or this past year. So for a good reason. But I'm loving that game. And aside from that, we got other stuff to talk about. But that's what I've been doing. Thanks for catching up.
Yep. All right. So I believe it's time to get to the meat and potatoes of the episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's time.
All right, Christian, I'm probably about to just shit all over your parade. All right, Last of Us. Beloved game by me, very, very much. I would say right now, without doing like an official ranking of my favorite games, it is 100% in my top 10 games of all time that I've played, and probably in my top 5. It may even be up in the top 3. Like, I really, really, Naughty Dog to me has done such a fantastic job with this game, and the fact that it gives me the horror elements that I love, the spooky stuff, the survival horror, all that. But at the same time, it also gives me a very emotional, gripping story that I can get into, and that I actually give a shit about the characters and about the people in the world and what's going on. I think the voice actors and what they've done are fantastic. I'm a big fan of the game. And we all know video game adaptations tend to suck. Like, there's no way to, like, really, like, tiptoe around it. I I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Silent Hill, the first movie, was okay. I'll say it's all right. It's not Boo Boo Shoes. That's probably, off the top of my head, probably the best video game adaptation I can think of right now. Not saying it's fantastic. And once you get past the first movie, they start going downhill. With that being said, HBO and Sony have released episode 1 of The Last of Us. And I freaking hate it, Christian. Hate it. It's boo-boo shoes. It's garbage. It's worse than Halo. It's worse than your hatred of Morbius. It's hot garbage. Casting, terrible. Everything is terrible. Sucks.
Well, I have the adverse opposite reaction to the.
It's the shit. Casting is fantastic. Acting is fantastic. The fact that they keep the damn so close to the story of the game is fantastic. God, like I said, as a big fan of the game, episode 1, how it starts into this, all of it, like essentially the prologue of the game, is wonderful. There are subtle changes and some not so subtle changes that we'll talk about. That, you know, some, like in some games or some adaptations, you'd be like, oh, that screwed it up. Really, they've done nothing that screws up anything. If anything, it's added more depth and helped the story, I feel like. They're absolutely crushing it. The fact that Neil Druckerman is very hands-on. I think he's right there with the director. I don't really know what his role is. Executive producer or something, maybe? Do you know?
I mean, yeah, he's definitely an EP because that's just money in the bank.
Did he help write it?
But he is like working with them.
I know he wrote the game, but did he help write the show? Do you know?
I don't know if he helped write the show, but I know he's definitely doing a bit of overseeing with
which is great,
the adaptation,
because that's his baby.
It's
him and one other person, and I'm sorry, I'm not giving that person credit. I can't think of his name or their name off the top of my head, but damn, they're doing it justice. Pedro Pascal as Joel has been great. I love it. That dude right now, everything he's touching is literal gold. Like, he is not missing on anything. I mean,
he hasn't been in a show.
Narcos.
He hasn't been in a show right now that's gotten under, I want to say, like a 89% Rotten Tomatoes. He hasn't been in a show yet that has gotten under that.
This dude is literally crushing it. Bella Ramsey as Ellie. I love it. She's doing awesome. I think she's doing a fantastic job. I will say for me, like a visual thing, she does look not a lot different than the Ellie I know from the games, but she has a little subtle differences to her, but it's not bad. And when you hear her talk and the way she acts and the way she is responding to things, you're like, it's Ellie. It's the same smart-ass Ellie that you've known for the games. It's been wonderful. I don't want to go into too much stuff. I will say this before Christian goes into his notes. There's a shit ton of Easter eggs, which I'm sure we'll touch on as he goes through the notes. We'll try to do them in order so we're not bouncing around and it's not all over the damn place. The intro is really cool. It's not something from the game. It's a added thing that
you mean the. What do you mean the intro? You mean like the first scene of the show,
intro, but like the
first scene?
Yeah, first scene. Like,
you mean the cold open? I got you. The cold open. I got you.
Yeah, it's essentially from, I think it's 1968, and they're talking about essentially pandemics, and it's their way of kind of briefly touching on COVID and bringing everything to like real world, as well as introducing what is going to be the main virus and pandemic and like what the shit that hits the fan with this game and this story. And it's really cool. They talk about influenza and how that could, widespread and all this stuff. And then this other scientist talks about, fungi and how they can overtake hosts and stuff like that, but they can't live in bodies because of temperatures and so forth, so forth. All that. It's really cool. It's not something that's in the game. There may be notes here and there, when you read stuff, but this is not an actual scene from the game. But I think it's a good addition. And one other thing before Christian goes in depth, they do change the time frame a little. The game came out in 2013, so that's when the outbreak happened, was 2013, and then when you're playing as Joel and Ellie and all that stuff, it's 2033. In the show, they change it to 2003, and then the outbreak, like when you're playing as Joel and Ellie, or when you're watching Joel and Ellie, sorry, it's 2023 to make it more real time and more in the current date. But yeah, it's God, dude, it's so good, and there's so many scenes that we'll talk about and stuff that literally mirror the game to a T. That's fantastic. One of them is the truck scene that, God, dude, I was so freaking happy about that. I was so stoked. But we'll let Christian do his in-depth rundown, and like I said, we'll be talking about Easter eggs throughout while he does it and different things, because there's a lot that mirrors and talks about, and there's some, like we said, some changes. Some of them big, some of them very subtle. But Christian, you wanna start? And
yeah, let's get it. What I'll start off by saying this. My notes are not as detailed as they were for House of the Dragon, only because with House of the Dragon, there was just a lot more to talk. Well, that's not really true. I was just watching this in awe that I liked the show so much. I knew I was going to like House of the Dragon just because of what it was, what was going on, the actors that were. I wasn't really afraid I wasn't going to like Last of Us. I was just, when I notes, I was just having so much fun watching it that I just didn't write down everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I was just enjoying it. Once I started really getting into notes, I realized that there was going to be so much more that you would catch on this that I would also catch, sure, but like there was just so much more that you would catch because you didn't read the books for House of the Dragon, and I had. So I just had a little bit more information than you did. So I was trying to bring more of that in. But because we're, fans of this, and you played more of Last of Us than I read of the other material that we covered, I didn't take as many notes. I did take plenty of notes though. I got a lot to say. But I know the game.
I believe it come out that two like analytic things I want to drop before you go. Last of Us is the second largest premiere for HBO in the last decade, behind House of the Dragon, which just crushed it. So that's awesome. And then the other thing, so I kind of figured this would happen, but was it September? October? When did they release the remake or the Last of Us Part 1 for PS5? Wasn't it early fall? Sometime.
You got me on that one.
This is like the third time they've released the game.
Yeah.
But sales jumped 238% after the TV show launched. I knew that was going to happen, especially if it was as good as I hoped it would be. But the game sales went crazy. In fact, I think there's scalpers like overpricing the game right now because it's in demand due to the show. So I want to throw
that's correct.
that.
I tried to gift a copy to a friend of mine for a late Christmas gift, and the price of it online was definitely being raised because the game was selling out again. So people who had extra copies or a copy of the newest remake of the game were selling it for like well over the price. So I had to like actually do some research and try to find.
Don't buy from scalpers, people. Don't give into their.
Yeah, seriously.
Don't do that. Don't make sure.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I found a copy of the game that was normal price. But the thing is, the game's been out first. If you count the initial release, the game's been out for so long. The price of the game should be minuscule.
Come out in 2013, so you think it's 10 years old, just about. It's a 10-year-old game. It's been released 3 times: PS3, PS4 remaster, and now the PS5 remaster rework because they changed some stuff. They like updated and changed like some mechanics or something.
Yeah, there. I will say, like, I really like Last of Us, obviously, but there are other games for me personally that I would love to see get the same treatment that it is getting because those games just mean more to me. Like, I just talked about Mass Effect, right? So, like, if Mass Effect, all of them, really, but if Mass Effect was getting the same treatment that Last of Us was getting, I can't imagine how
You got
much
Andromeda. What
more
else
of
do
a
you
fan.
want?
What's up?
You got Andromeda. What else do you want?
I know you didn't see it just then, but I gave you like the fucking best eye roll that I could give you just then
Poor
because
Andromeda. One day I'll play
Andromeda was.
that, but then again, you know, I could also just slam my hand in a door and call it even, probably.
I mean, it's about the same. Like Andromeda was just like not like if Andromeda came out before the Mass Effect trilogy came out, and that's what we got, then it wouldn't have gotten a sequel. There would never be a Mass Effect 2 and a Mass Effect 3. Like cuz it wasn't fun. It wasn't what you wanted out of the game, especially playing the other 3. And everybody hates Mass Effect 3's ending, right? I love the game, the ending. I knew what I was getting into. Like I cared more about the journey than the end. I'm not going to defend the end because why? But Andromeda didn't make it any better, you know? Like there's no you don't feel you know how a lot of people don't like Mass Effect 3 because you feel like you don't have any choice. Like whatever you do ends up being the same thing at the end. Well, if you played Andromeda, you wouldn't have the same complaints because with Andromeda, like you choose a class or whatever, but well, who cares? You choose a class and you just switch it mid battle, and then you're something else now. Then you switch it again, and then you're something else. Then you switch it again. You just keep switching, and all of the special abilities in that game hold no weight whatsoever. So you don't feel cool doing any of the things. You don't feel like any of the decisions you make matter at all throughout the game. So it's just that's kind of how it is. But back to what we were talking about, which is Last of Us. The show starts off and we meet Dr. Newman, who is an epidemiologist, and he is warning us against fungi, us not to worry over viruses, but bacteria. Then he tells us about viruses that can take control of their host. And I think that it's meant to kind of show us, the viewer of the show, like what's about to happen, but also kind of scare people into in the show to scare people into thinking like viruses can be cured and whatnot. But there is no cure for this. If this were to happen, we would be in serious trouble. And nobody takes this guy seriously because people like the virus, the fungi, it can't really survive at temperatures higher than 94 degrees is what he says. And the human body naturally is at 98 degrees, not the band, but the temperature, right? So
But Christian loves
over time, no, I know. Over time, the virus, or I keep saying virus, the fungus could adapt, right? Global warming, all these things. If the fungi learns to adapt to its new temperatures and can survive in higher temperatures, then we would be in trouble. Which is what happens, because 36 years later is when we get the origin of CBI, which is the cordyceps brain infection, I think is what it's called altogether. And in the game, you meet Sarah Miller, who is Joel's daughter. She picks up a newspaper, and if you read the newspaper, you get bits of what's going on with the fungus, and you learn that it was September 26, 2013, which is what you were just saying. That's in the game only. It's changed for the show. In the show, it's 2003, like you were saying. So we see that in the future, when we skip to the future to Joel, it's 2023 to be our time. So it's mirrored, so it's current, so that we feel more enthralled within the show. The intro to the show, by the way, is awesome. And I don't mean the cold open. I mean the actual title card intro, because it mirrors the game. And that's exactly what we, the gamers, the people who grew up playing these for the last 10 years, that's what we want to see. So it was really cool that they took the time to do that, and I appreciate that quite a bit. We see a butterfly pillow in Sarah's room, and then we see butterflies all over the show throughout the course of this episode as well. You also see that Sarah is biracial in this. She's not just a blonde with like shoulder length hair. So that's cool to see. I really like the actress that plays Sarah in this.
Sarah's actress crushed it. She
absolutely
is so naive and like innocent the whole time.
Yeah. I believe everything that she does and says because the actress really does take control of the character, and it's chef's kiss. It's perfect. Back to the butterflies, I wanted to say, you notice a bunch of butterflies in the show, but you also notice that everybody in this show, at least in this episode, that Joel cares for, wears some type of purple. I don't know if you picked up on that, but there's purple around everybody that Joel either cares about or will grow to care about. So
why Sarah, what's the significance of purple? Just
it's supposed to mean it means a couple of things aside from like royalty. I believe it's like caring, comfort, change, and something else. I can't remember the other meaning for it. I forgot to look it up. This is just from my memory. I didn't look it up before I wrote it in my notes, but Sarah has purple, Tess has purple, and then Ellie also has purple. So everybody that's close to Joel wears purple. If you don't wear purple, Joel probably don't give a fuck about you. So just saying, we should look for that in future episodes. So next week, hopefully, we'll see something that shows us something like that. She's also stolen money from Joel, right? Her dad, to get his broken watch fixed, which is different because in the game, she bought him a new watch for his birthday instead of fixing a broken one. So I thought that was really cool, and it made the watch way more significant, and it made us feel more for them. They know exactly what they're doing when they set a lot of this shit up. Like anything to make you give a shit about these characters is what they're doing. So I really enjoyed that. She also got his watch fixed because she straight up tells him, like, you wouldn't do it for yourself, so I did it for you because, you know, it was just a sentimental thing. So I thought that was really nice. And then you also notice that in the future, Ellie will comment on Joel's broken watch because it is broken again. And I think it's broken on the time that Sarah...
it's very, like, significant of essentially when his life changed or ended to an extent or whatever. Like,
yeah. That the old Joel
definitely...
I'm
trying to say? Not significant. Symbolic, I guess. Right?
Symbolic, yes. Yeah, symbology is definitely all over this show for sure. But I believe it's broken on the time of Sarah's unfortunate passing, which, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the episode, but if you haven't, you knew I was gonna tell you all about it. So I'm surprised that you didn't prepare yourself for this beforehand, because I'm not going to spoil future events, but anything that happened in this episode is fair game. So if you don't want any spoilers for the episode itself, you might want to dip out, watch the episode, and come back. So I'm just letting you know.
There's your
But
warning.
anyway.
Warning.
Yeah,
warning.
I gave it to you late, but you still got it. So there you go.
That's not a huge... I mean, it is.
No, it's like the first piece of the show. But with that said, though, we meet the Adler family, who's not in the game, and then we also see something else.
Their neighbor's name is different in the game. I can't think of it.
That's true. You see that Tommy's car, on his car, he has a bumper sticker that says Desert Storm Veteran, which is also not in the game. And then Joel tells Tommy to put his cigarette out when they get into the car with him. And we see that later on in the future, he will actually, risk pretty much life and limb just to procure cigarettes so that he can reach Tommy later on. So I just thought that was a cool little...
I think the bumper sticker is really cool. Like, especially those that play the game know how Tommy's going to kind of like where he's going to end up in the story. It kind of helps give a little more backstory to Tommy. Also, the actor they got to play Tommy, fantastic. He sounds like Tommy to me. So they crushed it with that.
He does. The only person that they cast in this that I like, just going into the show, that I didn't know if I was gonna like was Bella Ramsey. I like her as an actor a lot, but I didn't know if she was gonna be Ellie for me. So this episode was just a good way to ease me into her being Ellie, because she looks nothing like Ellie to me personally.
No, she doesn't, because Ellie's was modeled to okay, Ashley Johnson is the voice of Ellie, but to me, her character model favors Ellen Page, now Elliot Page, at the time.
Right.
So that's what I always thought when I saw Ellie.
Same. I mean, it's targeted, right? Like it's for a reason. There is absolutely a reason for us having that image in our head.
How old is Bella Ramsey? Because Ellie's supposed to be 14, I believe. She is 19. Wow, really?
It makes a lot of sense because she was probably the age Ellie is supposed to be when she was filming Game of Thrones episodes.
She was a badass in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But yeah, she's definitely older. But that's the other thing. It's not her age really that's bothering me because she looks small enough and all that for her frame and everything. That's not really what I'm worried about. It's just Bella Ramsey has a definite look to her, and that look doesn't scream Ellie. However, she's so good at her job that quickly dissolves in my mind and isn't a problem. But it was definitely something that I was thinking about the first couple of times we see her in the show. I was like, she's acting like Ellie, but she's not Ellie. But, when you get further and further into the show, that kind of just goes away.
Yeah. I think by the time it's all said and done and the 9 episodes are done or whatever, she'll be Ellie. Like, you'll associate that's Ellie. Kind of like Pedro Pascal. It didn't take long for him to become Joel to me. And he was Joel
immediately for me.
There's some subtle differences. Like, Joel has a little more full beard than Pedro Pascal, but I don't know. Right away, he already seemed very, I don't know, he became Joel quickly. Also, one thing to look forward to in future episodes, you will see Ashley Johnson, who I mentioned a minute ago, and that is the voice and I believe who they motion cap for Ellie for the games. And you'll see Troy Baker, who's the voice of Joel. They're in the show. I believe Ashley Johnson, I think it's been confirmed that she is actually Ellie's mom, so she'll have a small part as Ellie's mom in like a flashback. But that's really cool that they brought the actual people that brought these characters to life essentially in the game, and they're in the series. I think that's cool and something to look out for.
Yeah, that is confirmed for sure. I think they put it in the trailer as well, so that if you watch the trailers for the show and episodes to come, you definitely see that. So they did confirm that pretty early, just to give us something to look forward to. And Troy Baker's in the show as well. I think he plays a new villain for the show that's strictly for the show.
Yeah.
But I don't know how significant he's going to be. They haven't released that information.
I think that's cool though, because I don't know how much they were on the set, kind of like with Neil. But the fact that Pedro and Bella could like go to them and be like, because they've lived it. They've essentially played them, they've been these characters, a decade now. So they can go to them for references or different things in different moments and kind of, I don't know. I really like it.
It's good.
While we're on that subject, you haven't got to her yet, but one other thing they did, Marlene, the actress that is playing Marlene is actually who was motion captured and the voice actress of Marlene in the game. So it's really cool that she not only has brought her to life, Marlene, into the game and done all that stuff, but she's also playing as Marlene in the show. That's really awesome.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know if you had more that you wanted to go on real quick, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of.
What about essentially Tommy and like the start?
Yeah, because I know you have so much that you wanted to say for all of the things in the show, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of say some of those things if you wanted.
Where are you picking up at? So I don't like jump ahead. Are you picking up where has the infections happening, or?
Essentially, I was just going to talk about little things that I noticed. So when Sarah's in school, they hammer home what time frame it is, what year it is, because the president at the time is George W. Bush. So I thought that was really funny because you see his picture on the wall as the president in their classroom.
When she's in school, if you watch, she gets a reflection of a bracelet, a gold bracelet from a student, and it's kind of nodding towards the symptoms of the cordyceps, and his hand is like twitching and the reflection's like hitting her in the eyes, but he's got like the muscle spasm going. So that's a kind of that might be the first time you see that part of the outbreak in this episode.
I think that's the first time that you see it that's not obvious, because it honestly, if you're not paying attention, it's not something you would think about, because when we see the neighbors, you already know what's up with that. And so also, I want to say,
speaking of neighbors and stuff, did you catch that on the radio when Tommy gets there? They talk about, or maybe it was a TV, I can't remember. Well, they talk about Indonesia, all this stuff, and like things going down, which is something to do with like a flour. I think that place is like a flour or wheat factory, like the world's largest.
Yeah, it's a flour factory. And all of the that's actually the next part of this.
Okay, that sucked, but we had technical issues. Gotta love it. Interwebs and technology failing us, but we're back. We're going to continue what we're going through The Last of Us. We're going to let Christian continue along his happy trail phrasing.
Yeah.
Through The Last of Us. All right, Christian, what you got?
All right, so at this point, Sarah is going to the Adlers to look at their DVD shelf, and I noticed a mistake when she's cycling through their DVDs. She flips through one that's called Murder Ball, and I've actually seen Murder Ball. It's not a good movie at all, but that movie didn't come out till 2005. So whoever was doing the set dressing for that, left a movie in there that didn't come out for 2 years since that scene, because it's 2003 at the time. So I thought that was a really funny mistake to see. And then you see that night, Joel forgot the cake, forgot to go pick that up. So they escaped eating bread again, wheat, essentially. Flour is what I meant. Actually, not wheat, but flour. They missed that. Everybody else that's in the show, we've seen they've been eating stuff. So if in this show, essentially, if you're gluten-free, you're good. If you're not gluten-free, you're fucked. So that's just kind of how it goes in this world. I don't know if they're trying to tell us something or what, but I noticed that as well, because we also saw that early in the episode, Sarah didn't eat the cookie that she was offered from the neighbors as well. So anyway, they do the birthday thing, and we get the famous scene. Where'd you get the money for this? I sell drugs. I sell hardcore drugs. Dude, I loved it.
That made me so happy, because that's like word for word from the game, and I don't know why. That of a lot of the phrases they say that should have got my attention, I don't know why that one has stuck with me for like 10 years. I love that phrase.
I sell hardcore drugs today. I love that scene too, and it made me really happy that it was still there and they preserved that. That's like something that should be preserved. It's the little things that matter to us. So thank you, HBO, for keeping that. But if we move, she does give him the watch, and it means a lot. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit from that, but we already talked about how it's a new watch in the game and not a fixed watch. So them fixing a broken watch means a little bit more to us, to the character. You wouldn't think it does, but having something broken that you cared for fixed for you like new tends to mean more than just getting new stuff, right? So that's kind of how that works, especially if you're an older person, can appreciate what you already have. So us being parents and all that stuff, it just makes more sense. So I really enjoyed seeing that. And then you see he gets a call from Tommy. He's in jail. He's gotten into some sort of altercation. So he leaves Sarah to go pick up Tommy. And that's when we get the Adler scene, right? And then Sarah is saved by Joel and Tommy. But one of the other changes that I noticed in this, the infected, right? They have that like weird kind of fungus thing coming out of their mouth that looks like it's trying to make out with you almost. And it looks gross, right? So it's really fun to see that. So we don't see a full-on clicker yet, but we see infected in this and what it looks like in the show. And I forgot to mention earlier, but they kind of took out spores in this show to make it a little bit more
believable,
realistic. But yeah, so the spores that you have to deal with in the game and putting on the mask and stuff, we won't have that in the show. They're replacing it with other things, and this being one of them. How you get infected.
I hope they put the mask on at some point, just as kind of an ode to the show or to the game. Excuse me.
I
But
think that they're trying to stay away from masks so they don't have to do so much ADR, and also because with COVID happening here in the real world, I think they're trying to stay away from having to wear masks so much, so it's not such an allusion to COVID, even though the game came out, well before COVID
I
did.
definitely, I
I
definitely
think
get it though, because I mean, in the game, you'll go through a building and like 80% of the building will be fine, and then you'll open like one door and go in a room, and it'll be like you'll have to put a mask on. And in reality, if like there's any way that spores are going to spill out into the other parts of the thing as well.
Yeah.
So
it's
I
not as
definitely
realistic
get what they're doing. It's
unless
not a
you're
bad
wearing
change, but it is. It's a significant change from the game because you do wear that mask frequently. I mean, it happens.
Well, the thing is, the reality of how this would work, too many people, it's a video game, so you don't question it as much. But when you make it a show, people are poking holes in all the theories. So if your characters didn't wear masks all the time, people would be asking, well, if it's airborne, how come everybody's not sick and turned already? And they wanted to avoid that. So that is the main reason for the change. And I forgot to mention that earlier. But yeah, they did mask the whole show because, like I said, the entirety of the show at that point would just be all ADR, and everybody would sound like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. So to avoid that issue, they just took mask out completely and replaced the spores with those weird mouth thingies that we saw in this episode. So after the save, we see that they're in the car, and a lot of those driving scenes are pulled directly from the show. Even the camera angles are pulled from the game. They're pulled directly from the game. And it's really cool to see that reenacted with real life people doing real life things. Once we get past that, we see that the car wreck scene that's in the game as well, but it's a little different in this than it was in the game. But it's different in a good way. I think there's the plane that crashes, which causes them to crash as well. Ellie is now immobile because of this. So Joel is carrying her at this point, and they are stopped.
Sarah.
Did I say Ellie? I meant Sarah. Excuse me. But he's picking her up, and he has to walk with Sarah at this point because she's immobile. And then they are accosted essentially by this cop, or the soldier, excuse me, who has orders to take them out. And Joel is pleading with this soldier, letting him know that they're not sick. She's just hurt. It's her ankle, and all that. And he goes to shoot them, and gets clapped by Tommy, but the damage is already done, and Sarah was shot. And being a player of the game, I already knew that this was coming, but it didn't matter. It hurt all the same, even more so actually, seeing it happen. And Pedro Pascal, he sold the shit out of the scene for me, man. Like I'm not gonna pretend like I wasn't like watching the show like, oh my god, like tearing up a little bit. It really was. And this worked. Everything about the scene worked, and it was perfect. And then we see Sarah's unfortunate death, and it takes a toll on us as the viewers, and absolutely on Joel as her father, who feels like he failed. So great scene, very emotional, well acted, clutch is what I can say about it. Definitely
Fantastic.
So
also, quick note, I believe after I'll listen to an interview with I can't think of the actress that plays Sarah off the top of my head for some reason. Nico? Is it Nico Parker or something like that? Does that sound right?
I don't know.
Okay, anyways, and she mentioned that her and Pedro did not really rehearse the death scene much, just because they wanted, I guess, to be organic and in the moment, and they absolutely crushed it. It was fantastic. They did so good.
That they did. They did crush it indeed. So moving on, it's 20 years later in Boston. We see that Fedra is kind of taking over the city. I forgot what Fedra stands for. It's like what's left of man, I can't even think right now. My brain's kind of fried. But Fedra is
Fedra's
kind of
like
the group that
pretty much.
enforces the law, right? They're what's left. Yeah, thank you. They're what's left of the government. They enforce the laws, and they enforce them in a very aggressive manner, if you will. So that's what's going on with that. And then you see the Firefly groups as well, and the Fireflies are like a rebel group that is out to take out Fedra to give freedom back to the people. But their methods are also kind of crazy. So everybody is doing what they think. Well, you know what? Not really. Fedra is kind of a piece of shit. And the Fireflies have shitty members for sure, but I think their heart's supposed to be in the right place. But that we'll save that because then that's me getting too far into the future of this episode, and I don't want to get into spoiler territory too much because that's exactly what I said I didn't want to do. So moving on, we see a there's so much to talk about here, but I want to kind of speed this up. So I'll talk about the kid for a little bit. We see a kid kind of walking in the wilderness by himself, and he's got very distinguishable green shoes on. We see him walking up. He gets accosted by a Fedra. They ask him if he's okay and all that, and they test him to see if he's infected. He is infected, and we kind of cut to the next scene, and we see Joel throwing that kid's body on a pyre. They taken the kid out.
One thing to touch in there, when they're testing him, they show a very useful piece of information, and it's the signs or the symptoms of cordyceps infection, which are coughing, slurred speech, muscle spasms, and mood change. They also show the time to infection, which is something to keep in mind as you watch the show and you see different things happen. Neck, face, head are 5 to 15 minutes. Torso, arm, shoulder, hands 2 to 8 hours, and leg and foot are 12 to 24 hours. So that's something just to keep in mind, like when you're watching. So that's a nice little note to have. Which the kid was bit on his leg.
I think so, and there are theories. There are theories out there that kid was immune, like Ellie is, and I kind of buy into that a little bit just because of what was going on. He has marks and stuff very similar to Ellie, as we see further on in this episode, and I think that kid could have absolutely been immune because we don't know how old that Byte is that he had. But because people or humanity is what humanity is, they didn't take any chances and immediately took the kid out. So I think that there's a very good chance that kid was immune. I think there's a very good chance that kid was immune.
I know I'm behind, I don't know, but you talked about movies. Sarah and Joel watch Curtis and the Viper 2, and this is an Easter egg to Last of Us Part 2. Ellie brings it up to Dina, I believe, when they're walking around, they're talking, and she says there's like 10 of these things, and they're cheesy 80s movies and all this stuff, like with a ninja and all kinds of shit. So that's a really cool Easter egg for those that played the game. I just want to throw that real quick. I just thought about it. Sorry. Continue, sir.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And to speed it along a little bit, we meet Joel again. He is a smuggler, kind of like he is in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
Smuggling a kid, just like Mandalorian.
Absolutely. Then we meet Tess. We see that Ellie is being held by the Fireflies, and Joel wants a truck to find Tommy, who is, I believe, in Wyoming. And man, it's really funny to see characters and how technology kind of goes backwards with this. And he does a lot of things in order to get in touch with Tommy. It usually takes Tommy about a day to respond back, and this time that's not the case. So Joel thinks something is wrong, and he wants to go and find his brother to make sure he's alive. So we're seeing that take place. And I also wanted to mention really quick, Tess and Joel are very flirty with each other in the game, but in the show, it's all but said they are in a full-on relationship. Like, we see them sleeping in the same bed together, not hooking up, but they're very comfortable around each other, and I believe that have been intimate with each other a lot. Just the way that the show shows us their relationship and how close they are with each other. There's definitely more to their relationship in the show than it was in the game, and I think that that's really sweet, but also really sad. But not to get into spoiler territory, we'll just see how the show plays out for that. But I noticed that she totally gets in the bed with him and kind of calms him down and stuff. when he's having a moment. So I think that their relationship is definitely more than it was in the game. With that being said, we meet Marlene that you were talking about. Marlene is awesome. The actor was the actor for the mocap and all that and the voice. So you can't get more perfect than the person who gave birth to the character in general. So
props to them for doing that and bringing so much of what we know from the game into the show.
Absolutely. And for those of you who didn't catch, she is absolutely the leader of the Fireflies. She does have conversations with Ellie as well. She brings up some characters from the game that we haven't met yet in the show, and I hope that we get some flashbacks for that, because it's a pretty cool story, and we know how a lot of that plays out because we had played the game, but the viewers, not everybody has played the game, so we'll see how that plays out. We see that Ellie is very protective of the pocket knife that she has, that little switchblade. And she's a stabby little motherfucker, dude. I'll say that too. And we'll see that later on in the show. But Marlene is really persuasive, and she's able to talk to Ellie a way that not a lot of other characters have been able to talk to her. With that said, though, Joel and Tess go to the Firefly hideout to make a deal. And then they find out that there's been a gunfight in there, and a lot of the Fireflies are dead. Marlene's been shot, and she makes a deal with Joel and Tess to have Ellie as cargo to smuggle her to another location, a safe location. They begrudgingly make the deal because she sweetens the pot by letting Joel know that if he does this, she'll give him whatever he needs to make the trip, which he was looking for a car battery to begin with, so that he could make a trip to go see his brother Tommy, and he needs that, so he takes the deal. With that being said, Ellie's kind of like, what the hell, she's super spunky in this, like she was in the game, which is awesome. But she pretty much asks what they're capable of, because Marlene says, I know what you're capable of. I know you can get this done. And we see that she's wondering what Joel is capable of, which we will see later in the episode. Ellie reads the smuggler's code that Joel has in his room, and we see that they play music as codes, but it's music from different decades. We see that 60s means nothing's in, 70s means something new, and then songs from the 80s has an X, which we'll learn what that means here soon if you didn't already know just by reading it. But she also sees B and F, which stands for Bill and Frank, and she figures that out and asks Joel about it. She asks him a bunch of questions, actually, in this scene. So we also see that she tricks Joel into telling her what 80s means, which means trouble, because she tells him that his 80s song played while he was sleeping. And he says, oh, shit, and he's getting kind of nervous. And then she says, oh, I got you. It means that it's trouble. So she's cracked the code, right, which wasn't hard to crack, but it is now cracked. By the way, I can't wait to meet Bill and Frank. Just saying. Can't wait.
That's going to be fun. I can't wait for that. Hopefully on the next episode. But Nick Offerman is Bill.
Yes, which I can't wait to see, dude. Ron Swanson is fucking Bill. Yes, let's go. Excited. I want to see that. With that being said, I'm gonna skip around a little bit more. So they're smuggling her out. They get caught by the same soldier that Joel was selling drugs to earlier in the episode. Shit goes sideways real fast. Joel even offers to give him 50% off on all future orders. He pretty much says, fuck that. Ellie stabs this guy while Joel is trying to talk him down, because they are getting tested to see if anybody's infected. And she stabs this fucking soldier right in the leg with that handy switchblade that she has. And then Joel beats the dog shit out of that soldier. Like 20 years of just unfiltered rage
PTSD
as he's having
out in him hardcore.
PTSD flashback. And he just beats the face off of this guy. And it's brutal as shit, but it's awesome. And you see Ellie in the background kind of smiling about this, because not just because it's violent and she's kind of like not getting off on this, but enjoying this is what I'm getting at. And she's never been outside, so all of this shit is brand new to her, right? Because she's been locked up for so long. But now she knows that Joel not only has the ability and the capability to protect her, but he will. And that means more to her than literally anything else, because somebody is out there willing to die for her. So this is what she wants, right? This is what she needs as well. So we do get that. She sees what Joel is capable of for sure. And we see that Tess learns that Ellie is infected, and she lets them know that she got bit 3 weeks ago. Nothing's happened, which lets them know that she is oddly immune to what's been happening to the world.
Well, they're very skeptical. You can tell they don't. I don't think they know.
They are skeptical, but there is some truth in what she says. But they are skeptical for sure.
The wound isn't like fresh by any means. It's like scarred over.
Yeah, it's definitely old. It's definitely old. And with that said, they continue the journey. And as they're continuing the journey, you actually do see a clicker in the background of the scene, and he does shriek.
Yep.
And makes that noise and shrieks, but it's a blink and you miss it kind of thing. If you're not paying attention,
you could easily miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought that was very fucking clever, and I didn't think that I was going to like this, but I really do love that they didn't show us a full-on clicker in the first episode, but you do get the silhouette of one, and you hear the shriek. And it's the same sounds from the game. They did the same fucking sounds that you get in the game in the show. So everybody who has played the game, we know exactly what the fuck is up. For people who don't know, you hear this weird sound, and it's interesting. So I love that aspect of it, and that we close out the episode with a 80s song playing. It's a Depeche Mode song. I don't remember what the title of the song is called. Forgive me, I didn't write it down. But as they go into the no quarantine zone, excuse me, we hear that song playing, so we know that there is trouble ahead, and the episode ends, and I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
I thought it was absolutely perfect.
One thing they do whenever Ellie is sitting with Joel, like when they have like a down period, Ellie is glaring out the window, and it kind of throws back to the window seal, and a window is, I believe, a title menu in Last of Us.
Yes.
So it's cool that they bring that back some. But there's a shit ton of Easter eggs. We could spend a lot more time going through all the Easter eggs, but sadly we're running low on time, so we can't.
That's right.
But fantastic episode. Amazing. It's, I think, 90 minutes, and it does not feel like it at all. The pacing is great. Any final notes on Last of Us, Christian, before we get into stuff?
The only thing I have left to say about The Last of Us is I can't wait for episode 2, and I wish that I could watch it right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's Last of Us episode 1. Christian, thank you for the breakdown, and we apologize about, in middle of it, technical issues. I mean, shit happens. That was kind of out of our control. We gotta love it. Internet went down for a minute and screwed up all of our stuff, so that's awesome. But with that being said, as Christian likes to say so frequently, it is time.
I'm working on it.
Pass the whiskey.
The last call. That's right. Get your
Whiskey!
whiskey's ready, because this week it's coming to you from On the Inside. He says, I think we touched on it a little bit in an old episode, but I think the community should hear the official story of how Sin met Christian and the friendship was formed. I honestly don't know the year. I am not even going to try to figure out the year. It has been a long-ass time. But
yes,
how I remember, we met at a show. I don't remember if our bands were playing together or not, but I know we met at a show and started talking, and then we ended up playing shows with each other frequently, and Christian was around the metal scene a lot, so he would be at shows whether his band was playing or not, and we would hang out and talk, and then we ended up Xbox friends, and we would get in party chat and just bullshit a lot about nothing.
Man, all day, man, just in party chat going in.
Yep. How do you remember it?
Actually, the exact same. I know we met at a show. It was a metal show. I don't remember who was playing, if we were playing. I just remember it was at a metal show, and we ended up chatting like right after the show. Somehow got each other's Xbox gamer tags, and then what really sparked the friendship in general was that very first party chat on Xbox Live. So metal is what got us to meet each other, but Xbox party chat is where the party started, if you will.
It used to be the hangout for us.
Absolutely, because we lived so far away from each other. That was definitely how we would hang out, and we would just get in there and talk about everything, man, and play and all of that. We played games all the time. I think
even single player games we would talk about. I remember Walking Dead, Telltale's Walking Dead.
Yes,
you would like get a code and send to me, and then be like, play it, finish it, and then we'll talk about it. And we would seriously break down like we're on a damn podcast, the damn episode.
So I remember I used to work at a very popular gaming store, a stop, if you will, and I used to get codes for downloadable games all the time, and I was like, I gotta send this code and see what he thinks. It was you and another buddy of ours named TJ. I sent both of you guys a code, and I was like, play this. We're not going to talk about it right now. Play the whole thing, and then we're going to talk about it. And we would do shit like that all the time. We played Walking Dead. We played Mass Effect 3 multiplayer a lot. We played all the fighting games I can think of. We played Resident Evil 6 a lot. We played the Mercenaries mode a lot. We played a lot of stuff, man. There was this one Marvel game that came out that was like free to play that we played on Xbox Live. And I remember eating pizza and sipping whiskey and just playing that game. And we were talking about all the characters we could get.
We played Fortnite when it first came out before it was the BR Giant.
Yeah, dude. Man, remember OG Fortnite when it had like a story and shit?
We never got anywhere in the story because we kept building shit and then kept going and helping people with the same damn mission over and over again.
Over and fucking over, man. And then we had our buddy Squid, a.k.a. Will, was in there.
Yep.
Or was it
played on
Shrimps?
launch day, I remember.
Yeah, he actually was the one who told me to download the game. So we did that. We played a lot of stuff, but that's how we met, though. Yep. We did a lot of Xbox Live party chats, and I went to every single metal show I could get to. I was trying to absorb everything, and I was heavily in the metal scene at the time, and I'm still in the scene, but not nearly as much. I don't have as much time anymore, but definitely went to every show that I could possibly get to, and we had a lot to talk about for that. So that's the story of how we became friends.
Yep. All right. Thank you for that question. And if you would like to have your question featured on the podcast, join the Gilded server, gilded.gg/sinisterpack. There is a whole section dedicated to the podcast. You can submit your last call question there. You can submit your Sinister tale there as well for us to read and bring that segment back, as well as episode chat, Christian's Corner, all kinds of stuff there you can talk to us about. Join that, or hit us up on the socials, the Sippin With Sin socials on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Sippin With Sin, SIPPIN with Sin. DM us there. Hit us with those questions. Don't forget, every episode comes out 8 a.m. Wednesday. Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, Overcast, Anchor.fm, and more. Go show love, rate it 5-star, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff and things. Share it with a friend, pass it along to someone. Continue to grow this audience. Every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Also, the video version, if you're on YouTube, here you go. Video version comes out every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Also on YouTube, my personal YouTube, youtube.com/IamSinister. Go subscribe. Let's build that up. You can watch the video version and see our pretty faces. And then you can find me on my personal socials, Twitter, Instagram at IamSinisterTV. You can find me streaming on twitch.tv/IamSinisterTV, Facebook Gaming, fb.gg/IamSinisterTV, and TikTok at IamSinisterTV. So come check it out there and say hello. Christian, where can the lovely folks find you?
You guys can find me at Vin and Ink on Instagram and everywhere at Horrorverse Pod. Horrorverse will be coming back with a vengeance here soon. There's a lot of real life stuff going on right now, so I've taken a small hiatus on a few of the episodes, but we will be back, and we have some treats for you guys. So like I said, Vin and Ink at Instagram, all one word, and everywhere at Horrorverse Pod.
All right. And that's going to do it for this episode. Next week, we have Last of Us Episode 2, as well as other stuff. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. If you made it this far, it's a real one. Again, apologies about the technical issues. It is what it is. Shit happens. But, yeah, that's it. You don't have to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. Christian, shut her down.
Thank you guys for tuning in to yet another episode of Sipping With Sin. Be sure to leave a 5-star review. Smash that like button. Leave your recommendation section below. But, most importantly, guys, above all else, let's say those 3 words that I love to say at the end of every episode. Say it with me. Don't get gutted.
That's right. See you guys next time.